The cold metal floor felt like ice against Elena Vasquez's skin as she lay in the cramped cell that had been her home for 8 months now. The Krell mining colony on Outpost Sigma 7 was a place where hope came to die, and Elena had watched it drain from hundreds of prisoners since her arrival. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who had spent her life studying alien life forms with wonder and curiosity. But the Krell had taught her that not all intelligent species valued life the same way. Her research vessel had been in the wrong sector at the wrong time when Krell raiders swept through, destroying the ship and taking anyone useful as slave labor. Elena had been deemed useful enough to keep alive, though she often wondered if that was truly a mercy. The prison section held over 400 beings from 17 different species, all crammed into spaces meant for half that number. The Krell overseers were massive creatures, nearly 3 meters tall, with thick armored hides and 4 powerful arms that could crush bone with casual ease. They spoke little to their prisoners, except to bark orders or deliver punishments for perceived failures in the mining operations. Elena had learned to keep her head down and work without complaint, watching as others who resisted were made into examples. She shared her cell with a Venturi female named Shkara and 2 Kryn males who barely spoke. At night, when the lights dimmed to simulate darkness, Elena would stare at the ventilation grate above and dream of Earth's blue skies. 8 months felt like 8 years in this place. On what Elena thought might be a Tuesday by Earth's calendar, though she had long since lost track of actual dates, everything changed. The night shift had just begun when alarms suddenly blared through the facility with deafening intensity. The prisoners looked at each other with confusion and fear, wondering if this was some new form of punishment or perhaps a mining accident. Krell guards rushed through the corridors in organized chaos, their heavy footsteps shaking the metal floors. Elena pressed her face against the small window in the cell door and watched as armed Krell soldiers moved toward the outer perimeter. Something had gotten their attention, something that made even these fearsome warriors move with urgency. Hours passed with the alarms continuing their harsh song. Then came the explosion. The entire facility shook as something impacted near the eastern wall, sending tremors through every corridor and cell. Prisoners screamed in panic, some praying to gods that seemed to have forgotten this place. Elena grabbed the cell bars and steadied herself as another explosion followed. Closer this time, the lights flickered and died, plunging everything into darkness before emergency lighting kicked in with an eerie red glow. Through the chaos and smoke that began filtering through the ventilation system, Elena heard something new. Weapons fire. Not the heavy plasma cannons the Krell used, but something lighter and faster. The sound of combat grew closer to the prison section, and Elena's heart raced with a mixture of hope and terror. Who would be foolish enough to attack a Krell facility? The answer came when the door to their cell block exploded inward with a blast that sent metal shrapnel flying. Through the smoke staggered a figure unlike any Elena had seen before. The alien stood roughly 2 meters tall, with 4 slender arms and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Its face had 3 large eyes arranged in a triangle pattern and a mouth that seemed too small for its head. But what struck Elena most was that this being was clearly wounded. Dark blood that shimmered purple in the red emergency lighting dripped from multiple injuries across its torso. The alien carried a small device in one of its hands and moved with desperate purpose down the cell block, checking each door when it reached Elena's cell. Those 3 eyes fixed on her with startling intensity. The alien's hand moved to the control panel beside the door, and after a moment of working with the unfamiliar Krell technology, the lock disengaged with a hiss. "Elena Vasquez," the alien said in accented but understandable English. "You must come now." Elena stood frozen in shock for a moment before finding her voice. "How do you know my name?" she asked. "Your distress beacon," the alien replied, already moving to the next cell. We detected it 6 months ago and traced it here. We, Elena repeated. Who is we? The alien released another lock, freeing Shkara and the two Kryn. My people are called Tiraxi, the alien said. I am Kelver, and I need to get you out before more Krell arrive. What about the others? Elena gestured to the dozens of cells still locked. Kelver shook his head, his skin rippling with colors that Elena somehow understood meant regret. My shuttle is small and heavily damaged, he said. I can only take one. And your beacon was the one we detected first. Elena felt torn between the desperate desire to escape and the guilt of leaving so many behind. I cannot leave them. You must, Kelver said firmly. Oh, my coming here means nothing. The sound of Krell soldiers approaching made the decision for them. Kelver grabbed Elena's arm with surprising gentleness and pulled her toward a hole blasted in the exterior wall. They ran through corridors filled with smoke and chaos, past Krell bodies that showed Kelver had fought his way deep into the facility. Elena's lungs burned as they sprinted toward what she assumed was a landing area. She could see Kelver growing weaker with each step as more blood flowed from his wounds. They burst into the night air of the alien moon where a small craft sat smoking and damaged. Inside, Kelver gasped, practically throwing Elena through the hatch. He collapsed into the pilot's seat, and his four hands flew across controls that looked nothing like human technology. The shuttle lurched into the air just as Krell soldiers poured into the landing area, their weapons firing streams of plasma that scorched the hull. Kelver pushed the damaged craft higher and faster, navigating through the facility's defensive perimeter with skill that suggested extensive training. Once they cleared the immediate danger and entered the darkness of space, Kelver slumped in his seat. Elena rushed forward, her medical training kicking in despite her lack of knowledge about Tiraxi physiology. Where are you hit? She asked. Everywhere, Kelver said, with what might have been a laugh. The Krell do not miss often. Elena tried to stop the bleeding with pieces of her prison uniform, but there were too many wounds. Why did you come for me? She asked as she worked. Why risk your life for a human you have never met? Kelver's three eyes focused on her with fading clarity. My people believe all sentient life has value, he said softly. When we detected your beacon, we could not ignore it. We, Elena pressed. Where are the others from your ship? There are no others, Kelver admitted. This was not an approved mission. Elena's hands stilled as the meaning of his words sank in. You came alone. I am only a medic, Kelver said, but I have some combat training. And someone had to try. The shuttle's autopilot engaged, setting a course that Kelver had apparently programmed before entering the facility. Elena held pressure on the worst of his wounds, but she could feel his life slipping away despite her efforts. The ship will take you to human space, Kelver whispered. You will be home in 3 days. What about you? Elena demanded. Though she already knew the answer. I hope, Kelver said slowly, his skin colors fading to a dull gray, that my sacrifice mattered. Those were his last words. Elena sat in the blood-stained cockpit of an alien shuttle, holding the body of a being who had given everything to save her. She did not know the Tiraxi, did not understand their culture or their reasons beyond what Kelver had said. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty as tears streamed down her face. She would never forget this. The shuttle continued on its preset course through the darkness of space, carrying Elena home and carrying the body of the bravest being she had ever known. Behind them, the Krell facility grew smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. But Elena did not look back. She looked forward, toward home, and toward the debt she now carried, a debt that would not let her rest until it was repaid. Elena stood in her small apartment on Earth, staring at the star charts spread across every available surface like a woman possessed. 6 months had passed since Calver's shuttle had been intercepted by a human patrol ship near the Sol System's outer markers. 6 months since she had returned home to medical evaluations, debriefings, and the concerned looks of family who did not understand why she could not simply be grateful for her survival. They wanted her to rest and recover, to return to her research position at the Xenobiology Institute and forget the nightmare of captivity. But Elena could not forget, and more importantly, she could not ignore what she now knew. The Thraxi homeworld had fallen completely to the Krell Empire 3 months after Calver's death. She had learned this from intercepted communications and refugee reports that trickled through the various intelligence channels. The Thraxi people, who valued all sentient life so highly that one of them had died saving a stranger, were now scattered across the galaxy in Krell labor camps. Elena had made it her mission to find every single one of them. Her apartment looked like the headquarters of a military operation, which in some ways it was becoming. She had spent her life savings hiring information brokers, paying off corrupt officials who had access to Krell shipping manifests, and bribing traders who moved through Krell space, piece by piece. She had assembled a picture of where the Thraxi prisoners were being held. 17 facilities, 17 prison camps spread across Krell-controlled territory, each one holding between 50 and 300 Thraxi survivors. Elena had marked each location on her charts with a red circle, and beside each circle, she had written the estimated number of prisoners. The total came to approximately 2,100 T'Aksha still alive in captivity. 2,100 beings who belonged to the same species as the alien who had sacrificed everything for her. But the Tasharaxi were not alone in their suffering. Elena's research had uncovered something larger and more horrifying than she had imagined. The Krell Empire operated over 60 labor camps across their territory, holding an estimated 40,000 prisoners from dozens of species. Some of these species she recognized from her time in captivity. Others were completely unknown to her. She had created detailed files on each facility, noting guard rotations, defensive capabilities, and the types of prisoners held at each location. Her work had not gone unnoticed. Elena looked up from her charts as a knock sounded at her door. Firm and official, she knew who it would be before she opened it. Admiral Marcus Chun stood in the hallway, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. His expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. "Dr. Vasquez," he said formally. "May I come in?" Elena stepped aside and gestured to the chaos of her apartment. "Welcome to my obsession, Admiral." Chun walked slowly through the room, taking in the star charts, the prisoner manifests, the detailed schematics of Krell facilities. He had been a war hero during humanity's last conflict with the Regalian Confederacy. Known for tactics that were brilliant but unconventional, he was also known for having a conscience, which is why Elena had been trying to get a meeting with him for 2 months. "This is impressive," Chun said finally, picking up one of her facility reports, "and completely illegal." "I imagine. Probably," Elena admitted. "I have broken several laws regarding unauthorized intelligence gathering and communication with foreign entities." "Why?" Chun asked simply. Elena walked to her desk and picked up the only photograph in the apartment. It showed Calver, taken from the shuttle's internal cameras during their escape. His 3 eyes were dimming, his skin already fading to gray. But there was something in his expression that spoke of peace. "Because one of them died saving me," Elena said quietly, "and I cannot leave the rest to suffer when I have the knowledge to help them." Chun set down the report and turned to face her directly. "You must know that Earth's government will never approve a rescue mission," he said. "The Krell Empire is too powerful, and we are not ready for that war." "I know," Elena replied, "which is why I am asking you to help me do this without approval." The Admiral was silent for a long moment, and Elena could see the conflict playing across his face. You are asking me to commit treason, he said. I am asking you to do what is right, Elena countered. Humanity has a choice here, Admiral. We can be the species that turns away when others suffer. Or we can be the species that remembers kindness and repays it. Chun walked to the window and looked out at the city lights below. If we do this, he said slowly, and that is a very large if, it would need to be completely off the books. We could not use active military forces or official resources. Elena felt her heart rate increase with something that felt dangerously like hope. But there are retired soldiers, she said. Veterans who might volunteer. People who have ships and weapons they acquired through less than official channels. People like me, Chan said with a slight smile. I retired 6 months ago, Dr. Vasquez. Did you know that? Elena had not known. But it explained why he had agreed to meet with her at all. Then, you are free to make your own choices about what missions to undertake, she said. Free to make catastrophically poor decisions. You mean, Chun replied, but there was no heat in his words. He turned back to her charts and studied them with the eye of an experienced military strategist. 17 Taraxi facilities, he murmured. Plus you have marked 3 multi-species camps here, and here. Why those 3 specifically? They are the largest concentration of prisoners, Elena explained. And they include species that might be willing to help us if freed. The Venturi are experienced pilots. The Kryn are brilliant engineers. The Silicates are warrior caste. You are not just planning a rescue, Chun said with dawning realization. You are planning to build an army. I am planning to give people a choice, Elena corrected. The choice to fight for their freedom and the freedom of others. The same choice Kelver made when he came for me. Chun was quiet again, studying the maps with an intensity that told Elena he was already thinking tactically. This would require simultaneous strikes, he said finally. If we hit one facility, the others would be reinforced immediately. We would need at least 20 separate strike teams, each one capable of independent operation. Can it be done? Elena asked. I know people, Chun admitted. Soldiers who would volunteer for something like this. People who have their own reasons to hate the Crow, or who believe in fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves. Then you will help me. Chum looked at the photograph of Calvera that Elena still held. That being died for you, he said. Died for someone he had never met because his people believed all sentient life had value. How can I do less than honor that sacrifice? Elena felt tears threatening but forced them back. Thank you, Admiral. Do not thank me yet, Chun warned. This operation has maybe a 10% chance of success, and even if we succeed, the political fallout could destroy both our careers and possibly spark a war. I know, Elena said. But doing nothing is not an option I can live with. Chun nodded slowly and began examining her charts more carefully. We will need more intelligence, he said. Better information on guard rotations, defensive systems, extraction routes. I can get that, Elena promised. And we will need ships, weapons, supplies, all acquired through channels that cannot be traced back to Earth or any official human organization. I still have some money left, Elena offered. This will take more than money, Chine said. But I know people who owe me favors, and more importantly, I know people who believe in doing the right thing even when it is difficult. Over the next 3 hours, they worked together to refine Elena's data into something approaching an operational plan. Chun asked hard questions about facility defenses and extraction logistics. Elena provided detailed answers based on her months of research. By the time the Admiral left, as dawn was breaking over the city, they had the skeleton of something that might actually work. It was insane and dangerous and probably doomed to failure. But it was a chance. After Chun departed, Elena returned to her charts and added a new notation. Beside each red circle marking a prison facility, she now added a green star, Each star represented hope. Hope that Kelver's sacrifice would not be forgotten. Hope that the Taraxi and all the other prisoners would see freedom again. Hope that humanity could be the species that made a difference. Elena looked at the photograph of Kelver one more time before carefully placing it in the center of her planning table. "I promise you," she whispered to the image. "We are coming for them, all of them," outside her window. Earth continued its rotation, unaware that one of its citizens had just committed to an act that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. The debt had been acknowledged. Now came the work of repaying it. The abandoned mining station at the edge of human space had become something Elena never expected to see. What started as a secret meeting between her, Admiral Chun, and a handful of retired soldiers had grown into something much larger. The hangar bay that once processed asteroid ore now housed 17 ships of various makes and models. More importantly, it housed over 300 volunteers from 9 different species. Elena walked through the makeshift barracks, still amazed by what had happened over the past 4 months. The plan had been to keep the operation small and quiet, but word had spread through underground channels that someone was organizing a strike against Krell prison facilities. The first non-humans to arrive had been 3 Venturi, pilots whose families were being held in one of the labor camps Elena had marked. They came in a battered cargo ship carrying weapons they had acquired through means they did not discuss. "We heard humans were planning something foolish," the lead pilot had said with what passed for a Venturi smile. "We wanted to join the foolishness." After the Venturi came a Kryn engineer named Turval, who had lost his entire homeworld to Krell expansion. He brought technical expertise and a burning hatred for the Empire that had destroyed everything he loved. "You fight the Krell," he had said simply. "I fight with you." Then came the silicates. Elena had been terrified when she first saw them, as their species was known across the galaxy as fearsome warriors. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, with crystalline exoskeletons that could deflect most energy weapons. Their leader, a warrior named Crystalline Edge of Morning Frost, had approached Admiral Chun with what seemed like respect. "We heard one human female seeks to repay a debt of honor," the silicate had said in a voice like grinding stones. "This is a concept we understand deeply." More volunteers continued to arrive as rumors spread. Some came seeking revenge against the Krell. Others came because they believed in the cause. And some came simply because they had nowhere else to go. Admiral Chun had taken command of the military aspects with the efficiency of someone born to lead. He organized the volunteers into 20 strike teams, each one mixed with different species and skill sets. The diversity that might have been a weakness became a strength as each species brought unique abilities to the table. Venturi pilots had reflexes faster than any human and could navigate through debris fields that would destroy other ships. Kryn engineers understood Krell technology better than anyone, since the 2 species had been at war for generations. Silicate warriors were nearly indestructible in close combat, and their crystalline bodies could interface directly with certain computer systems. And humans brought adaptability, the ability to think creatively and make plans work, even when everything went wrong. Elena found Admiral Chun in what they now called the command center, a converted office space filled with holographic displays and tactical maps. "We have a problem," Chun said without preamble. Elena had learned to dread those words over the past months. "What kind of problem?" "The kind where our operation is no longer secret," Chun replied, activating a display that showed encrypted communications intercepts. Elena read through them quickly, her stomach sinking. "The Krell know something is coming. They do not know what or when," Chun clarified. "But they have increased security at several facilities and changed their patrol patterns." "How did they find out?" "Probably the same way we found 300 volunteers," Chun said dryly. Rumors spread. And the Krell have informants everywhere. Elena paced the small room, thinking hard. Can we still make this work? The plan was always risky, Chen admitted. But yes, I believe we can. We just need to move faster than anticipated. How much faster? We launch in 3 days. Elena felt her breath catch. 3 days was barely enough time to finalize preparations, let alone ensure every team was ready. Are the teams prepared for that timeline? She asked. They will have to be, Chen replied. Because waiting any longer means the Krell will have time to reinforce their facilities and possibly discover our location. A knock at the door interrupted them. Interval entered without waiting for permission. The Kryn engineer had become Chun's right hand over the past months, his technical knowledge proving invaluable. The weapons modifications are complete, Terval reported. All ships now have enhanced shields and improved firepower. They are still no match for Krell warships in direct combat, but for hit-and-run operations they will serve. And the communications network, Chan asked. Installed and tested, Terval confirmed. All 20 teams will be able to coordinate in real time despite being spread across 3 sectors. Elena listened as they discussed technical details, still overwhelmed by how real this had all become. She had started with charts in her apartment and a desperate need to do something. Now she stood in a command center coordinating a multi-species military operation that would strike at the heart of the Krell Empire. Later that evening, Elena found herself in the hangar bay, where many of the volunteers were performing final checks on their equipment. She watched a human soldier showing a young Venturi how to properly seal a pressure suit nearby. A silicate warrior was teaching hand-to-hand combat techniques to a mixed group that included 2 humans and a Kryn. This was what gave Elena hope. These beings from different worlds, different cultures, different ways of thinking, had come together for a common purpose. Dr. Vasquez? A voice called. Elena turned to find a Tiharaxi female approaching. Her name was Sarakel, and she was one of 7 Taraxi who had escaped captivity and eventually found their way to the station. Sarakel, Elena greeted. Are you ready for the mission? I am ready to free my people, Sarakel replied, her skin shifting through colors that Elena had learned to read as determination. But I wanted to ask you something. Of course. Why are you doing this? Sarakel asked directly. You are safe now. You could return to your life on Earth. Yet you risk everything for people you do not know. Elena thought about how to answer that question. One of your people died to save me, she said finally. Calvary gave his life so I could go home. How can I go home and forget that? But you barely knew him, Sarakel pointed out. By your own account, you spoke for less than an hour before he died. It does not matter how long I knew him, Elena replied. What matters is what he represented. He showed me that there are beings in this universe who value life so highly they will sacrifice themselves for strangers. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I cannot be less than that, she continued. I cannot be someone who accepts such a gift and does nothing to honor it. So I do this because Calver showed me what it means to truly value sentient life. Sarakel's skin rippled through colors Elena now recognized as respect and gratitude. He would be honored to know his death meant so much, the Taraxi said softly. His death will mean even more when we free your people, Elena promised. That night, Admiral Chun called a general assembly in the largest cargo bay. All 300 volunteers gathered. A sea of different shapes, sizes, and species united by common purpose. Chun stood on a raised platform where everyone could see him. 3 days from now, he began, his voice carrying clearly through the space. We launched the largest coordinated rescue operation this galaxy has ever seen. The crowd stirred with anticipation. 20 teams will strike 20 targets simultaneously, Chun continued. We will face overwhelming odds, superior firepower, and an enemy that outnumbers us significantly. Elena wondered where he was going with this. "Many of you may not return," Chun said bluntly. "I will not lie to you and say this is a safe mission or that victory is certain. The truth is we will lose people. Good people who deserve better than to die in some forgotten corner of space." The assembly was completely silent now. "But if we succeed," Chun's voice grew stronger, "we will free over 40,000 prisoners. We will show the Krell Empire that they cannot brutalize sentient beings without consequence, and most importantly, we will prove that different species can work together for something greater than themselves." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Each of you volunteered for this mission, knowing the risks," he continued. "You came from different worlds with different reasons. But you are here because you believe some things are worth fighting for." Chun's gaze swept across the assembled volunteers. "In 3 days, we show the galaxy what it means to fight for each other," he declared. "We show them that freedom is not something granted by the powerful, but something claimed by the brave." The cheers that erupted were deafening. Different species, different languages, but one unified voice of determination. Elena felt tears streaming down her face as she watched this impossible coalition come together. Calver had died believing his sacrifice mattered. In 3 days, she would prove him right. The coalition was ready. The debt would be repaid. The moment of truth came like a thunderstorm breaking across 3 sectors of space simultaneously. 20 strike teams dropped out of faster-than-light travel at 20 different Krell facilities at precisely the same moment. Elena sat in the command chair of the ship designated Redemption, her hands gripping the armrests as the view screen showed the prison facility where she had once been held. Outpost Sigma-7 looked exactly as she remembered, cold and brutal and designed to crush hope. "All teams report ready," the communications officer announced. Admiral Chun's voice came through from his flagship Liberty, which was leading the assault on the main Thoraxi prison moon. "This is Chun to all teams," he said calmly. "Remember your training, trust your teammates, and let us bring our people home. Execute," he commanded. Redemption surged forward along with the other ships in Strike Team 7. Their target was Outpost Sigma-7 and the estimated 600 prisoners held within. Krell defensive platforms immediately opened fire, streams of plasma cutting through space toward the approaching ships. But Duvall's modifications held, and the enhanced shields absorbed the initial barrage. "Evasive pattern Delta," called out the Venturi pilot at the helm. The ship twisted and rolled through the defensive fire with impossible grace. Elena watched as their fighters engaged the Krell defensive ships, bright flashes of weapons fire illuminating the darkness. A human pilot named Rodriguez flew his small craft directly at a Krell gun platform, drawing its fire while 2 silicate-heavy ships came in from another angle and destroyed it. "First wave landing craft away," the tactical officer reported. Elena could see the boarding craft streaking toward the facility's docking bays. Each craft carried a mixed team of soldiers. Engineers and medics, their job was to breach the facility, disable the defenses from inside, and evacuate the prisoners. Team 7 Alpha reports successful docking, communications announced. Then came the hard part. Elena had insisted on being part of the boarding team despite Chen's objections. She strapped on her pressure suit and joined the second wave heading for the facility. The boarding craft shook as it crossed the gap between Redemption and the prison, and Elena forced herself to breathe steadily. She had trained for this moment over the past months, but no amount of training could completely prepare someone for actual combat. The craft docked with a metallic clang, and the doors hissed open. "Move, move, move," shouted Sergeant Williams, a human soldier who had become team leader. Elena followed the others into the facility corridors. The layout was exactly as she remembered from her time as a prisoner, though now she saw it from a very different perspective. Weapons fire erupted ahead as the first team engaged Krell guards. The Krell were massive and heavily armored, but the coalition forces had numbers and determination. A silicate warrior named Sharp Light Through Crystal charged directly at a Krell guard, its crystalline fist smashing through armor that would have stopped energy weapons. Human soldiers provided covering fire, while Kryn engineers worked on unlocking the cell block doors. "We have access." Terval's voice came through Elena's comm unit. Releasing prisoners now, the cells began opening one by one, and confused prisoners emerged. Elena saw Venturi, Kryn, humans she had known during her captivity, and dozens of other species. "This way," she called out, directing them toward the evacuation route. "We are getting you out." A young human woman Elena recognized emerged from one cell, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Dr. Vasquez," she gasped. "You came back." "We all came back," Elena replied, helping her toward the evacuation craft. But the Krell were not giving up their prisoners easily. Reinforcements poured into the cell block from multiple directions. "Heavy resistance on the north corridor," Williams reported. "We need support." Sharp Light Through Crystal and 2 other silicates moved to block that corridor, their bodies forming a living wall. The Krell weapons' fire bounced off their crystalline forms as they advanced. Elena helped evacuate prisoners while the soldiers fought to hold the perimeter. She saw acts of incredible courage as beings from different species protected each other. A human soldier threw himself in front of a wounded Venturi. Taking a plasma bolt meant for her, a Kryn engineer stayed behind to manually override a door, allowing others to escape, even as Krell forces closed in. And through it all, the prisoners kept coming. More than Elena had estimated, over 700 beings crammed into spaces meant for far fewer. "All prisoners evacuated from Sector 3, a voice reported. "Sector 5 clear. Sector 7 needs more time." Elena worked alongside the evacuation teams, her medical training proving useful as she helped wounded prisoners to the boarding craft. Then the communications officer's voice cut through the chaos with urgency. "Multiple Krell warships jumping in system," he announced. "Estimate arrival in 10 minutes. 10 minutes to finish the evacuation and escape before overwhelming Krell reinforcements arrived. All teams, accelerate evacuation," Chun's voice commanded from his distant location. "We knew this was coming. Stick to the plan," Elena pushed harder, helping to carry a badly injured Kryn toward the waiting craft. Around her, the coalition forces were performing miracles of coordination. Species that had never fought together before moved with synchronized precision. A Venturi pilot remotely guided evacuation craft while human soldiers held defensive positions. Silicate warriors provided heavy assault support while Kryn engineers disabled Krell security systems. And in the middle of it all, Elena saw what they were truly fighting for. Prisoners who had given up hope now ran toward freedom. Beings who had been treated as less than nothing were being rescued by strangers who believed they mattered. "Sector 7 clear," came the final report. "All prisoners evacuated. Fall back to the ships," Williams ordered. The coalition forces began their fighting retreat, covering each other as they moved toward the docking bays. Elena was nearly to her boarding craft when she heard a sound that made her blood run cold. A child crying. She turned and saw a small figure huddled in a corner, a young being from a species she did not recognize. The child must have hidden when the cells opened, too frightened to understand they were being rescued. "Wait," Elena called out, breaking away from the evacuation line. "Dr. Vasquez." "We need to go now," Williams shouted. "There is a child," Elena replied, running toward the small figure. She reached the child and knelt down. Speaking softly, "It is okay," she said gently. "We are here to help you." The child looked at her with large, frightened eyes. Elena held out her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, the child took it. She scooped the small being up and ran for the boarding craft. Krell soldiers were pouring into the corridor now, their weapons firing. Williams and his team laid down covering fire as Elena sprinted the final distance. She dove through the craft's door just as it began to close. "Go, go, go," Williams yelled, piling in behind her. The craft detached and accelerated away from the facility. Through the small viewport, Elena could see Outpost Sigma-7 receding. The place that had been her prison was now empty of its captives. "All teams report status." Chun's voice cut through the comm channels. One by one, the reports came in. Team 1 successful, evacuating with 420 prisoners. Team 5 successful, 390 prisoners plus moderate casualties. Team 11 successful, 210 prisoners. The reports continued, each one confirming successful evacuations. Some teams had taken heavy losses. Others had faced unexpected complications. But every single team had completed their primary objective. They had freed the prisoners. Team 16, Chun called. "Report status." There was a long pause before the response came. "Team 16 successful," a strained voice replied. "But we lost the horizon." The captain stayed behind to hold off Krell reinforcements so the evacuation craft could escape. Elena closed her eyes as that news sank in. The horizon had been commanded by Captain Sarah Mitchell, a retired human naval officer who had volunteered immediately when Chun first mentioned the mission. She was gone now, along with who knew how many others. "All teams." Chun's voice was heavy with emotion. "Begin jump to Rally Point Beta. Krell reinforcements are arriving at all locations." Alana's ship shuddered as it entered faster than light travel. Around her, rescued prisoners sat in shocked silence, still processing their unexpected freedom. The child she had rescued clung to her, and Elena held the small being close. "You are safe now," she whispered, hours later. The Coalition fleet gathered at the rally point, an empty region of space far from Krell patrols. The ships were battered and damaged, but they had all made it. Chun called a fleet-wide communication. "Final count," he announced. 41,307 prisoners rescued. A cheer went up across the fleet. "Coalition casualties," Chun continued, his voice sobering. 73 dead. 140 wounded. The celebration quieted. "We honor those who gave their lives today," Chun said firmly. "They died so that thousands could live free." There is no greater sacrifice, Elena thought of Captain Mitchell, of the Kryn engineer who had stayed to override the door, of all the others who had not made it back. They had paid the price of freedom. "Set course for the extraction point," Chun ordered. "We have people to deliver home." The fleet turned toward human space, carrying its precious cargo of freed prisoners. The Coalition fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space to find a reception they had not anticipated. Waiting for them were over 50 human warships, their weapons powered but not targeting. Elena stood on the bridge of redemption, her heart sinking as she realized what this meant. Incoming transmission from the lead human vessel, the communications officer reported. "Put it through," Admiral Chun commanded from Liberty. A stern-faced woman in an admiral's uniform appeared on the view screen. "This is Admiral Patricia Zhao of the Earth Defense Fleet," she said formally. "Admiral Chun, you and your forces are ordered to stand down, prepare to be boarded." Chun's expression remained calm. "Admiral Zhao," he replied, "we have over 41,000 refugees in need of medical attention and processing. Many of them are in critical condition. Your actions have created a diplomatic crisis," Zhao responded. "The Krell Empire is demanding your immediate surrender and the return of all prisoners." Elena felt anger rising in her chest. "Return them," she muttered. "They want us to send these people back to slavery." But Chun's next words surprised her. "Admiral Zhao," he said carefully, "before you make any decisions, I recommend you speak with the rescued prisoners, particularly the 217 human citizens we evacuated from Krell facilities. There was a pause as Zhao processed this information. 217 human citizens, she repeated. That is correct, Chun confirmed. Humans who have been held in Krell labor camps for periods ranging from 6 months to 3 years. I believe they have some thoughts about being returned to captivity. Elena could see Zhao's expression shift slightly. Stand by, the Admiral said, and the transmission cut. Well played, Elena said to Chun over the private channel. Truth is always the best weapon, Chun replied. For the next hour, transmissions went back and forth between the Earth Defense Fleet and various ships in the Coalition. Elena watched as human government officials spoke with rescued human prisoners. She watched as representatives from other species transmitted their stories back to their homeworlds. And she watched as the truth of what the Coalition had accomplished began to spread. Finally, Admiral Zhao's face reappeared on the view screen. Admiral Chun, she said, and Elena noticed her tone had shifted from hostile to something more complex. Earth Command has reviewed the situation. And their decision? Chun asked. You and your forces will not be arrested, Zhao stated. The rescued prisoners will be given full asylum and assistance. And Earth will formally protest the Krell Empire's use of slave labor. Elena felt relief wash over her. However, Zhao continued sharply, you are all to be debriefed extensively, and there will be a full inquiry into how this operation was funded and organized. Understood, Chun replied. One more thing, Zhao added, and now Elena detected something that might have been respect in her voice. Well done, Admiral. What you accomplished today was remarkable. The transmission ended, and Chun allowed himself a small smile. Begin docking procedures, he ordered. Let us get these people the help they need. Over the next days, the rescued prisoners were processed through multiple Earth stations. Medical teams worked around the clock treating injuries and illnesses. Counselors helped those traumatized by captivity. And diplomats worked to contact the homeworlds of every species represented. Elena spent most of her time helping coordinate the medical efforts. She worked alongside Taraxi doctors to treat members of their species. Learning about their unique physiology, she held the hand of the child she had rescued while medics examined them. And she listened to countless stories from prisoners about their time in captivity and their overwhelming gratitude for rescue. 1 week after their arrival, a memorial service was held for the Coalition members who had died during the operation. 73 names were read aloud, representing 7 different species. Captain Sarah Mitchell's name was among them, along with the Kryn engineer who had sacrificed himself and dozens of others who had given everything. Elena stood with the other survivors and wept openly as each name was honored. These beings had died for strangers, just as Kelver had died for her. After the service, Sirakel approached Elena. The Taraxi female had worked tirelessly helping her freed people adjust to their new circumstances. Dr. Vasquez, she said, the Taraxi elders wish to speak with you. Elena followed Sirakel to a chamber where 7 elderly Taraxi waited. Their skin displayed colors Elena had learned indicated great wisdom and age. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the eldest began, we are the surviving council of the Taraxi people. We wish to honor you and all who participated in our liberation. The honor is mine, Elena replied. Your people showed me what it means to value all sentient life. You speak of Kelver, another elder said. We knew him. He was young and impulsive but brave beyond measure. He saved my life, Elena said simply. And you saved 2,100 of ours, the eldest replied. But more than that, you showed us that Calver's belief in the goodness of other species was justified. The elder stepped forward and placed something in Elena's hands. It was a small crystal that pulsed with soft light. This is a memory stone, the elder explained. It contains recordings of Calver's life, his hopes, his dreams, his reasons for volunteering to rescue you. Elena held the precious object carefully. "We also wish to propose something," another elder said. "The Tiak people owe humanity a debt we can never fully repay. But we wish to try." "You owe us nothing," Elena protested. "Nevertheless," the eldest continued, "we propose a formal alliance between our peoples. The Diraxi may have lost our homeworld, but we have not lost our knowledge or our abilities. We offer these to humanity in friendship and gratitude." Before Elena could respond, the door opened and Admiral Chun entered with Admiral Zhao and several other officials. "Forgive the interruption," Chun said, "but I believe you need to hear this." Dr. Vasquez. Zhao stepped forward, her expression serious. "In the week since the rescue operation," she began, "Earth has been contacted by representatives from 15 different species. All of them were represented among the rescued prisoners." She activated a holographic display showing star charts. "Every single one has expressed interest in formal diplomatic relations with humanity," Zhao continued. "Several have offered military alliances, others have proposed trade agreements, and 3 species have requested permission to establish embassies on Earth." Elena stared at the display in amazement. "What you did," Zhao said, looking at Elena and Chun, "changed everything. You showed the galaxy that humans are a species that keeps their word, honors their debts, and fights for those who cannot fight for themselves." "We merely did what was right," Elena said. "Perhaps," Zhao replied, "but in doing so, you gave humanity something we have been trying to achieve for decades through diplomacy. You gave us allies who trust us. Over the following months, the changes accelerated. The coalition of free peoples was formally established, a mutual defense pact between humanity and 12 other species. The Virexi, despite having lost their homeworld, contributed advanced medical technology and scientific knowledge. The Venturi provided some of the best pilots in the galaxy. The Kryn shared engineering expertise that would revolutionize human ship design. The Silicates offered their warriors as trainers for combined military forces. And humanity provided something the others desperately needed: hope. Hope that species could work together. Hope that the strong could protect the weak. Hope that one act of kindness could change the course of history. 6 months after the rescue, Elena stood in a newly constructed memorial on Earth. The memorial honored all those who had participated in the operation, both the living and the dead. At its center was a statue of Calver, created from descriptions provided by the Taraxi elders. His 3 eyes looked forward with determination, and his 4 arms were positioned as if reaching out to help. Beneath the statue, words were carved in 17 languages. One of them came for one of us. We returned for all of them. Elena placed flowers at the base of the statue, as she did every week. Behind her, the child she had rescued during the operation played with other children in the memorial gardens. The young being had been adopted by a human family and was thriving. Admiral Chun approached and stood beside Elena. "I received word from the frontier colonies," he said. "Krell activity has decreased significantly in our sector. Apparently, they have decided humanity is more trouble than we are worth." "Good," Elena replied. "The Coalition Council is meeting next week," Chun continued. "They want you to speak about expanding rescue operations to other Krell-held territories." Elena smiled. "Tell them I would be honored." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the children play. "Do you think Calver knew?" Chun asked. "Do you think he understood that saving one person would lead to all this?" Elena thought about the question. "I think he just knew it was the right thing to do," she said finally. "He saw someone in need and he helped. The rest of it, the alliances and the coalition and everything else, that is just what happens when good people refuse to look away from suffering."